Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay in the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is about masculine and feminine differences in communication.
We haven't talked about something like this in a while on the podcast, and it's cool because, the masculine and feminine differences is likely going to be a new concept for a lot of you. We had kind of mentioned it very briefly on a coaching call, and the person goes, wait, I've never heard of that. Talk more about that. So it stood out to us as, hey, I think there's a lot of people who've never heard about this concept. And just want to say really quickly, this does not mean just male, female. And we're going to go into that. And so this is going to apply. You're going to find so much out about yourself. If you're male, if you're female, it doesn't matter. You're going to learn about the masculine and feminine differences. And if you're hearing this on a personal note, Baby Freeman's not here yet.
Probably not. At the moment we're recording this, she is not here, and this is releasing tomorrow. Yes. So basically, it's any day now.
Any day now, and we're just excited to meet her, trusting her timing, or at least I'm trying to relax and trust her timing because I'm so excited. And we wanted to make sure that you had lots of content for while we are on maternity leave, so we have some episodes that will come out even when she is here as well.
And the main thing was from last week, as we had not mentioned this to social media or anywhere else, just you, the podcast listeners, last week we gave you the gift, ahead of time that she, Baby Freeman, wanted us to give you while we were off.
Yes.
Hence we're not off yet. But it is the WebClass on the 5 steps to repair from arguments faster in just minutes rather than hours, days, or weeks.
And the feedback's been amazing. We even read the questions from people who are watching it, and it's awesome because you all are watching from all over the world. You're asking great questions about conflict, communication. So go ahead and watch that. Take advantage of it because people are saying it is really helpful. It's online couplesworkshops.com/repair, and we'll also link that in the show notes. But take advantage of that web class. You're going to get a lot out of it.
And I think part of where this topic came from today was, as you mentioned, the coaching call, but also as we're hearing feedback from this web class, we hear a lot of times, oh, well, my partner and I are so much different in our communication styles.
Yep.
And sometimes we laugh at that now, right? Because we've been doing this so much that's obvious.
Yeah.
And it's not just a male and female thing. And I think that's where a lot of couples think that this comes from, but it's even more so in this realm of masculine and feminine, which comes down to, I'll talk about a little bit more later, the personality that you are is way different than anyone else on the planet. So when you get into a relationship with another personality made up of different tendencies and different styles and different mix of masculine and feminine, of course, it's always going to be different, no matter who you would be with. So it's not really a surprise that, oh, my partner and I, quote unquote, communicate differently. Well, every person in the world is going to a certain extent, which brings us to diving into the masculine and feminine and how that really creates dynamic in your communication.
Yeah, so I want to define those terms a little bit for you, and then we're also going to refer to some experts and some books that really dive into this in depth that we love. So think of the masculine, which we all have. It doesn't matter who you are. I have masculine within me. And then feminine, same thing. Aaron has feminine within him. These are energies. Okay, so the masculine energy is about discernment, guidance, action, logic, details. And then the feminine is about compassion, being receptive, feelings, wisdom, creativity, and intuition. Now, again, this can be within all of us, and we can be in a few places. We can be balanced, masculine, feminine. We can be way far overly masculine. We can be way far overly feminine.
And that's no matter if you're male or female.
Exactly. And this is also not something you just are your whole life. You can be in seasons of this. I certainly have had moments where I'm going, hey, I am overly masculine right now, right? I am being directive. I'm all about action. I'm all about logic right now. I need to balance out a little bit and come into the feminine a bit more.
It's been said about society that for a number of decades now, females have been pushed to be more in a masculine place, whether it be in business to try to stay up with other male counterparts, or more so just be in the accomplishing action, getting things done, completing projects mode that we've been in really since like World War II. We haven't really changed that much. And so success is largely now seen as very masculine,
action oriented,
from the perspective of the action, the logic, the details, being devoid of emotion and not letting that sort of get in the way of you getting things done. Don't get over emotional. I know I'm saying business, but this is business. That doesn't have a place here. And all of this really does start to miss out on all the things that you mentioned, right? Like now there's no room for compassion when someone messes up, when someone's having a hard day. Where's the compassion for humanity, for
or just
other
their
people?
feelings? It's like, oh nope, you got to toughen up.
Even more so, wisdom, creativity, and intuition, I think, is largely missing in the larger societal perspective, and certainly in business too. And I think we're starting to see a rise of real creativity and intuition having its place more so in society, and having that be respected as something that's very powerful.
Yeah, before I refer to a researcher who's an expert on this, and I want to read an excerpt of his that's really interesting, here's a simple application of this, and we're going to go more into it too. But when we watch couples interact with them, coach them, we can see that one of the sources of conflict, and actually the conflict continuing and going on, is that they are in two different worlds. One of them is in the masculine, trying to rehash the details, the logic, what makes sense, the solution. Yeah, that's another thing. The masculine is very solution oriented. Here's just what we need to do. And then another partner is more in the feminine. No, I'm feeling it. I am feeling it and I'm unsure, and they're more in hey, let's talk about the experience of this rather than the solution. And so when you're in those two different worlds and you don't know you're in those two different worlds, you're kind of having different conversations.
Yeah, and I think it's of note here that when you're in or getting into a conflict and emotion is now rising, whether you were in the masculine or feminine, you can now be triggered and be more reactive or out of balanced, masculine and feminine. So this is a lot of different dynamics. I don't want this to get confused. Male, female, masculine and feminine, even as you go about your day, happen both in male and female. And then emotion triggers you, you get escalated. How do you normally react? Do you default to more of a feminine unbalanced, or do you go towards a masculine unbalanced?
It's a good point you bring up about how there can be an imbalance, right? And so there's not a better or worse. There's just, are you balanced? Are you imbalanced? So that's really good. Okay, so I want to refer to Dr. John Gray. Some of you may have like either read it yourself, or I know it's funny thinking back to my mom's bookshelf. She had this book on there when I was a kid, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And, you know, at that kid's age, I didn't understand it. But now I'm like, oh, he's such an amazing expert. So he has a book that we're going to link in the show notes where he goes a lot more in this concept. I want to read this excerpt.
Well, let me say something really quick before that, because maybe we should get the date. I don't know the date that Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus actually came out, but long ago enough that I think in the book you're going to, refer to is his new book. The reason I'm saying this, I think he's starting to come to the perspective of, it's actually not just men and women, Mars, Venus. There's also this whole other realm of masculine and feminine, hence why he's coming out with this new book, because he just notices the importance to make that distinction.
Yeah. So this excerpt is actually from someone who wrote an article about his work. Okay. So it says, the goal is for everyone to have a healthy balance of female and male hormones in their body, because an imbalance in hormones will seriously affect your relationship. When a woman starts to slide into the male role in the relationship, her female hormones decrease as her male hormones increase, which changes her behavior. Women get more stressed, feel more dissatisfied, and find it difficult to express appreciation, love, and acceptance for their partners. They will also start to project all their frustrations onto their partner, because when they are testosterone dominant, this indicates that they are stuck in a place of doing things that cannot bring inner satisfaction, inner fulfillment. For women comes from being in alignment with female hormones. And as John Gray explains, that is tenderness, vulnerability, intimacy, and love all stem from feminine energy. Mm-hmm. So I just find that really interesting. And what I love about Dr. John Gray's work, because this whole conversation about masculine and feminine energy, it can feel kind of hard to grasp. It feels a little bit intangible to people. And I like that he brings kind of this hormonal, like very, not medical, but just like a very tangible, here's what's happening in your chemical body.
Exactly, yeah. Because I think when you say energies, right, sometimes you lose people. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's this very conceptual, spiritual, is the word etherical, I think is the word. Yeah. Etherical, maybe?
We'd have to look that one up.
And it's hard to grasp. Like, you just kind of cast it aside. But no, when we talk about masculine and feminine energy, you are talking about a chemistry of testosterone and or estrogen.
Exactly. So his work is amazing. We're going to link his book in the show notes. Highly recommend it, because he brings in that hormonal aspect. But the key thing to take away even from that excerpt is, like, and he was talking about the female in this example, when we are out of balance, meaning we are overly in our masculine energy, our testosterone goes up, and then that changes our attitude, the way we're communicating. We're probably more directive, frustrated. And then what does that do to our partner? This excerpt didn't go into it, but when you really connect it, then that puts your partner either in a place where they're going to resist that energy, because they're kind of like, whoa, why are you coming at me with all this? Mm-hmm. Or they're going to now become overly feminine because the relationship is trying to seek balance.
And let's be clear, probably an out of balance feminine.
Exactly.
A more passive, a more quiet, a more shut down. And one thing that starts to do over time, that is going to erode or wear away the relationship connection, because when you're in that state, or when you feel like you're being forced into that state, you now are, as you said, more passive. And one of the things I've been meaning to talk more about is you disengage. Mm-hmm. It might sound like this is saying the same thing, but you have less engagement, less involvement in the relationship. Mm. And you could call it an attention thing. You could also call it a life energy type of thing, but to me, life energy flows to where your attention goes. Mm-hmm. And so your energy, your focus is either going into the relationship or out. And when you are feeling, let's say, forced into an out of balance feminine, your attention is going out of it, and so is your energy. Mm-hmm. And so now you're not involving yourself. Your mental state is maybe thinking of other things. You're not thinking as much of your partner, the things you can do for them, the bids you're making for them, and all of that starts to create an erosion. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking about that for a while. That's just one of the effects, I would say, of being, again, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. If you feel like you're being put into an out of balance feminine state, this passivity creates this disengagement, which I think erodes your connection.
Absolutely. And that's just one of the dynamics. Like, that's what's so fascinating is, depending on where you fall and your partner falls in the relationship, it really does impact the way you're communicating with each other. And this is something that I've had to be very aware of, because I fall into the assertive communication personality type, which, if you haven't taken our quiz, by the way, go take it. It's at mycouplesquiz.com to find out what your partner's is and then what yours is. because I fall into that assertive type, I can unconsciously be more in the masculine state. I can be more directive and somewhat imbalanced, right? Mm-hmm. Overly directive, overly action oriented. And now, again, that's not a bad thing if I were in a balanced place of masculine where I was kind of and I think this is what I do now, is I pay attention to like, where are you at? Where am I at? Like, I almost want it to be like a dance between us where I'm aware of the energy you're showing up in, I'm aware of the energy I'm showing up in, and I don't want either one of us to be out of balance or resisting each other's energy, right? Like if I stay in that overly masculine place, I can feel the resistance that comes up between us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just thought of a small little tweak, right? So in those moments, what would be the difference between balanced and unbalanced masculine? And I think it would be, of course, the state that's going on within you, maybe more calm, more conscious or thoughtful or aware. But what it would sound like, I think, is the action on what we need to do. Does that make sense?
Say like an example, maybe?
So let me give you the out of balance.
Okay.
So the out of balance is going to, yes, be action oriented, but it's probably going to be directed at your partner and say, here's what you're doing wrong, and here's the action that you need to take. So it's going to be, more blame. So still action and directive, but the blame and the focus is going to be on, you need to do this. Mm-hmm. Where if you were in a balanced masculine, still directive, still action oriented, but you would say, hey, what I notice is we need to do this, right? And it would be more, not commanding, directive is the word, but it's really more about inclusive and let's take this next step.
When you were saying that, I got excited because I started to think also about the feminine. And I think the feminine is even more neglected in a relationship in modern day times because everyone does feel so busy. We've got kids and work and I got to do the to-do list, right? We talk about that a lot. And so there's like this overwhelm for people. And so in a relationship, which often gets unconsciously neglected is, how are we feeling? How are you? Really? No, it's like at dinner, you're even talking about what needs to be done tonight, tomorrow. And when you're not bringing in enough of the balanced feminine, which is, again, about guidance, being receptive to each other, compassion for each other, that's where intimacy and love can happen, right? And so even think about that. Have we both been so focused on being overly masculine and we ignore the feminine aspects of ourselves? A lot of our clients, what we're working with them on is being more open, authentic, and vulnerable with each other because their communications are very sharp and very blame oriented as opposed to, hey, I just need to share how I'm feeling and let's be receptive to each other.
And it's interesting you talk about playing off one another because I do think that in a relationship, it's hard to both be in the same place. Even if you were both balanced feminine, let's say, meaning both in your feeling, you were inquisitive, you were asking each other questions, you were in your heart, and you were using communication skills to understand one another. If you don't have someone kind of in that moment generate a balanced masculine perspective, then what are you going to do now? All right, so you should, for those of you listening, you should definitely go and listen and watch the whole, how to repair from conflicts even faster, because we talk about the 5 R's.
The WebClass you're
The WebClass, yeah, onlinecouplesworkshops.com/repair. And what you'll notice is we really set these steps up where the steps allow you both to be in the balanced feminine together so you can both understand each other's perspective and validate the emotion and the experience, but we don't stop there. The steps actually guide you into, at least one of you, into what's the balanced masculine in, I don't want to give too much away, but you have the repair and you have the reconcile step, which is going to create agreements. It's going to remind you of your commitments, and it starts to form the action of what do we now do together, which is a balanced masculine perspective.
That's really good that you bring that up in the repair process that we teach, because we do address both the feminine and masculine to what you're saying, the emotional impact and the what do we need to do here now. So you're so right. It is really taking into account both.
I want to say one other thing too, because where most couples get into trouble is typically not doing it in the right order. So in the beginning, you can try to direct your partner. You could feel as if you were in a balanced masculine perspective and trying to direct what you need to do now.
The solution.
But that almost always feels invalidating to the other person because they haven't got to express how they are feeling.
True.
What that experience is, what the impact is. So you pretty much have to have at least the person impacted be able to feel safe to be in the feminine and express, and then have that be validated. Then one or both of you can step into the balanced masculine to, create action and to just do what's next.
Yes.
If you are trying to do those out of order, like I said, your partner will feel invalidated. You will feel invalidated.
There'll be resistance.
That's that feeling of, your partners can be very good at fixing things and finding solutions, but it isn't what actually repairs from a conflict. And that's one place that we notice that people get stuck is it's like, well, they're good at like getting to move on, but that's when they don't ever feel fully repaired.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, myself included, or more so my former self before doing all this work, I didn't know how to express the feminine energy, right? Like the feelings, my experience in a constructive way. So it came out in an imbalanced way, which only sparked more conflict. And so we even talk about that in the WebClass too, about how to express the feminine in a constructive way where your partner hopefully can be more receptive to it, as opposed to, I feel like you're just blaming me for all these emotions. Yeah. So, there's a lot here. This masculine feminine topic is one that you can really go deep into. I want to just invite you into a few things. And Aaron, want to see what you would add as well. Number one is to start to notice in different moments, and start with today, start with this week. Which place are you falling now? Are you in a balanced masculine and feminine? Are you overly in a masculine state? Are you overly in a feminine state? And if you need to listen again to the beginning where we talk about those descriptions, but a couple would be masculine is about action, direction, and then the feminine is about like feeling and intuition and experience. So where do you fall now? Then even think about where your partner falls. And look, okay, could this be a source of tension, of resistance for us? Are we flip-flopped, right? Like, do I want to be more in a feminine place? But my partner is, and that's why I'm in a masculine? Like, really look, because there's an interesting desire for the relationship to be balanced, but sometimes it can be the opposite than you'd prefer.
Yeah, and I think just want to bring this home to really get that the ideal place is not just even a fixed mix of masculine and feminine. So you could be male, you could be female. I could be male and I could work on being more feminine, but also that's not going to be a fixed thing. I think ideally, not just situational, but that's probably the best language I have for it. You want to be in a place, I think, where you've done the work to what some would call open your heart, be more connected to what you are feeling, have language around that feeling, have communication skills where you can express what you are feeling, and also be receptive and open to the feelings of your partner. And that you can choose to bring that aspect of yourself forward when it's best suited. And you're also really connected to a balanced masculine energy and perspective where, hey, what do we need? I'm going to be directive.
Decisions.
I heard you feel understood, but let me lead here and bring us out of this together, right? So you really want to be able to have developed both sides such that you can kind of situationally, based on maybe where your partner currently is and what they need, step into the role and the mix of masculine and feminine that's most needed right now.
Yeah. What I hear in that is like a moment to moment check-in. Like we're doing a dance. Where are we at? Where am I at? What do we need? What's best for our relationship right now? And so I love that. Okay, so this is really about awareness for yourself, awareness for where your partner is, where your relationship is. We really encourage you to dive into this concept a bit more, reading the book that we're going to link to, Dr. John Gray's, and then also our WebClass, because it does talk about how to have both. What is the decision, the logic, what are we doing from here, but also the emotion and emotional understanding. So balancing that masculine and feminine as well. So go check that out at onlinecouplesworkshops.com/repair. That is our free gift to you, our baby gift, right? And everyone think good things about Baby Freeman joining the family soon. We cannot wait to meet her, and we are just patiently and lovingly waiting for her to decide to come.
Could be any day.
It could
any
be,
moment.
We could have the baby
could
an
be right
hour
after
recording this. Like you guys could hear this and then all of a sudden she decides to come. But we love you all, and we are going to be posting more episodes even while we're off with our newborn. So make sure you stay plugged in. We've got a lot of great content coming for you that we planned before she comes. So we love you, and we will talk to you on the next episode.